I've never been good with names, but dates cling to me like dust on industrial carpet. It was on May 19th at exactly 4:42 p.m. that I received my first envelope marked Floor 13. I say received for lack of a better verb. It was simply there, resting on my formica desk as if it had grown out of the office's dry air. I remember that moment with total clarity because I write everything down, including now. That afternoon was already dragging its last breath. I had shut down my computer, pushed back my chair with a faint creak, and slid my arms into my coat. I was ready to leave, prepared for another silent walk to the bus terminal. Then the envelope appeared. I heard no footsteps, felt no presence near my cubicle, no rustling of paper, no shift in the air. It was just there. Its colour was a deliberately dull shade of grey, and yet something about it held your gaze, as if the paper's very texture had been engineered to absorb curiosity. Sender, internal unit, late compilation. Task, report non-human activity in Sector B between 12 and 3 a.m. Instructions, remain objective, avoid emotional qualifiers, names are unnecessary. Floor 13. The problem was that Floor 13 didn't exist, at least not officially. The building I work in, or worked in, maybe I'm not sure anymore, is a bland concrete block from the 90s, dressed in modern pretensions that reek of quiet decay. 12 floors in total, elevator buttons from G to 12, a lobby cafe with the permanent smell of burnt coffee and stale sweet rolls. But if you really pay attention to the details, you'll notice something strange about the 12th floor. There's an unmarked door, always locked, tucked into a corner where the lighting never quite settles. Sometimes during the graveyard shift, when most employees have cleared out and silence creeps in like a shy guest, you can hear things. Furniture being dragged, slow footsteps, something heavy moving above our heads. It never lasts long, just enough to keep the theories alive. My co-workers had their own explanations: a shadow government surveillance office, secret cults funded by upper management, experimental labs run by private contractors. One said aliens, another swore it was executive sex parties. I never cared, not until the envelope. I took it to my supervisor, Lionel. He's an old school type, the only one who still uses a fountain pen and insists on recycled paper. When I mentioned Floor 13, he looked up with an expression I still can't describe. It was as if I had finally said something he'd been expecting for years. "You got one?" he asked, his voice steady and flat. I nodded. He gave a simple reply, "Then follow it." No explanation, no reassurance, just silence. A silence that stretched until it became uncomfortable, as though he wanted to make it clear that the conversation was over and that from this point forward, I belonged to another layer of the structure. I returned to my desk, unsure of what to do. I placed the envelope back down and just stared at it, as if it might eventually open itself and explain. At 6 p.m. sharp, I clocked out like always, but that night, the envelope came home with me. Not physically, it was inside me. The task, the non-existent floor, Lionel's gaze. At exactly 3 a.m., a time I would usually be asleep or flipping muted TV channels, I found myself opening my work laptop and logging into the shared notes system. I typed hesitantly. Nothing to report, no non-human presence detected. Report concluded. I closed the file, shut the laptop, and went to bed thinking it was all some kind of elaborate office prank, a tasteless corporate joke. But deep down, I knew better. The next morning, my access badge didn't work. The scanner flashed red, the glass door stayed shut. The receptionist, a woman I had never seen before, with strangely generic features, looked at me like I was the problem to be solved. "You're not in the system," she said, her voice flat, rehearsed. I tried to argue, gave her my name, my department, my extension. She kept typing without expression, like she was pretending to search a database that didn't exist. When I mentioned Lionel, she raised an eyebrow and replied coldly, "There's no one here by that name." Something inside me broke. I don't know what exactly, but a sudden, uncontrollable urgency took hold of me. A blind impulse, something almost primitive. I did something I never imagined I would. I ran. I tore down the hallway, heart pounding, lungs burning. At the last turn, the elevator stood open, as if it had been waiting. The doors slid wide in eerie calm. The cabin was empty, lit in a sterile white that felt more surgical than safe. I heard footsteps behind me. Maybe security, maybe the receptionist, maybe something else. I didn't wait. I stepped in. The doors closed. The elevator began to rise on its own. The numbers climbed. I found myself hoping that it would stop at 12. It stopped right there. The doors opened with a soft hiss. The 12th floor was pitch black, silent except for the low hum of a flickering light bulb somewhere deep within. The only illumination came from a red exit sign glowing faintly at the end of the hallway. And then I heard the ping. My work laptop. Somehow, it was on. That made no sense. I had shut it down. I remembered the entire sequence. Save documents, close windows, hold the button, watch the screen go dark. But there it was, at the far end of the dark corridor, casting a ghostly glow from a room that shouldn't exist. I approached slowly, almost unwillingly. My legs moved without checking in with my mind. Each step echoed too loudly, as if the halls hadn't seen a visitor in decades. The linoleum was colder than usual. The air was damp, a kind of humidity that didn't match the HVAC system. Something was off. When I reached my cubicle, the same one with my papers, my chip mug, my favorite pen off to the side, I saw the notes app open on the screen, and it was typing by itself. Presence detected. Non-human interaction initiated. Reporter present. Reporter being observed. My monitor flickered softly, like it was breathing unevenly. The cursor blinked, waiting. I stepped back. My heart was hammering, and the air behind me grew dense as if watched by something that had no eyes. Then, I saw the reflection. It wasn't mine. There was something behind me, something only the screen could register. Its silhouette was wrong. Too tall, too narrow. Its head stretched upward unnaturally, searching for a ceiling that wasn't there, and even without a face, I knew it was watching me. I spun around. Nothing. The hallway stood empty, its light pulsing like a heartbeat on the verge of collapse. The laptop chimed again. Escape not recommended. Observation must continue. That was when it hit me. Not just fear, but a dread that settled into my bones. I was being held, not by walls or hands, but by something deeper. An enchantment, a pressure. Something clamped over my will like a lid over a sealed jar. Then came the sound, a snap, close by, like bones cracking. It broke the spell. I ran, for real this time. I knocked over chairs, slammed into a partition, didn't dare look back. I knew that if I did, I'd see it. Or worse, I wouldn't see anything, but I'd feel it. The presence, the touch, skin that wasn't skin. The elevator was still there, waiting, doors open like a mouth. But when I reached it, the digital display showed something impossible. Floor 13. That was never there. Never. Not during testing, not during maintenance. The floor number glowed in a dark red like clotted blood. And worse, the lobby button wasn't lit. No option to go down. That's when I heard it. Not footsteps, not whispers. A dragging sound. Something heavy, wet, moving across the linoleum like raw meat being pulled by trembling hands. A sweet, rotten smell filled my nose. It was like jasmine left to rot in an open grave. The doors began to close. I threw myself inside. At the exact moment the doors met, I saw it for less than a second. Not the whole thing, just a part. An arm, far too long, with joints where no joints should be. Its skin looked like wet paper mache, and the fingers, they didn't end. They just kept growing, reaching, searching for something to grasp. An eye, a single eye, was open in the center of the palm. It saw me, and I saw it. The elevator began to descend, but the digital display was off. No number, no indication. The sensation was of a slow, steady fall, like we weren't heading to a floor, but being pulled away from the world. Inside the cabin, I pressed my back to the wall, breathing heavily. That sweet putrid smell like something rotting under the sun clung to my clothes, to my tongue. For a moment I wondered if I'd ever leave, if this elevator was some kind of endless limbo, and time had stopped behaving the way it used to. But then, with a soft mechanical sigh, the doors opened. 12th floor. Everything was normal. The fluorescent lights were on, white and impersonal. The dull hum of keyboards, the muffled rhythm of printers, the distant murmur of voices in the break room. No sign of dampness, no darkness, no empty hallways. There they were, my co-workers, sitting in their cubicles. The same people, the same faces, the same problems. Lionel walked past with a coffee cup in hand, raised an eyebrow when he saw me stepping out of the elevator, probably pale and tense. "Whoa, looks like you've seen a ghost," he said in the same sarcastic tone he used every morning. I didn't answer. I just walked to my desk. My computer was on, showing the login screen waiting for my password. Everything suggested I had just arrived like any other day. My documents were stacked neatly in the corner, my mug in its usual place. Nothing out of the ordinary, or at least, nothing anyone could see. I sat down and typed my password with still trembling fingers. Since 8 a.m, I've been trying to work. I look at emails, spreadsheets, pending requests, but I can't type a single line that isn't this one. I don't know how long the moment lasted. I don't know if anyone else noticed anything. Apparently not. But right now, as I write, I catch something in the reflection of my screen. Another envelope, white, identical to the first, placed on my desk, behind me.